Just wait for some people to come in, if anyone is going to. And then I will start talking properly. And those are the first words I've spoken today because it's very early here in Australia. Right, so good morning, everyone. This is, the purpose of this stream is just to chat, basically, to chat boxing, to, you can ask me whatever you want, really, and I will ignore it if it's weird. But if it's boxing related, then great. I'm quite tired. It's early here in Australia. It is actually 6:23 a.m. But basically, I didn't do as many videos as I wanted this week. So I thought, let's just jump on and see if we can start growing the lives a bit more. Got a few comments in already, which is great to see. Let me, do you know what? I need to just do something to make that appear. Okay. That should now work. It's just getting my YouTube chat on stream. At the moment, it's not coming through. Let me try doing this again. So I can get your comments on the screen. Sometimes it can be a bit weird. All right, well, I can read them out anyway. Alex on MMA, good morning, mate. How are you? David, yes, Henry. Boxing Lounge, let's go, champ. Tom Norse, hello, mate. Hello, Tom. I always wondered how to say your name because I've seen you're a member. Is it Whitaker? Whitaker? Anyway, good morning, mate. Chat stream, I'll take it. Big up 202 Ultra. Oh, there we go. Now they're coming through. Okay, good. Sup says V David Ho. Daddy Drip says, let's go. David says he likes the stream chat. Oh, says like the stream chat. I see what you mean. And what do you... Okay, well, let's pull this one up. Wojciech, got you. Wojciech says... If this is going to work. Apparently it's not. Anyway, he says, what do you think about Huni's future career? Is it looking better or worse after the fight? That's a good question. Yeah, you do got to change your name. I don't even want to say it. I feel violated just saying it. Am I being stupid? Oh, there we go. That's why. Okay, fine. What do I think about Huni's future career? Is it looking better or worse after the fight? It's got to be better because he's had a profile boost now, right? No one really knew who he was before. And now everyone's seen that even though he got knocked out, he can really box. And that is always going to make him an interesting opponent. Not all heavyweights can crack like Fabio Wardley can. But equally, I do think he's shown his limitation already. And it was what I predicted before the fight, which was that the toughness and the durability aren't there. Because I think there are some heavyweights that would have got up from that Fabio Wardley right hand. Not many, but there are some. So, yeah. But I think more importantly, there's some heavyweights that would have knocked Fabio Wardley out before Fabio Wardley was able to land that right hand. You know, you can't be landing that many shots and not sufficiently hurting your opponent. Wardley didn't even take a knee. So I think his biggest issue, actually, more than anything, is he lacks punching power. Because his defense is clearly good enough to get through a large portion of a fight without getting hit. Although Wardley, a bit crude. I think against better opponents, he'll get hit more. And I think he will struggle the same to knock people out. Wardley is tough, though. But yeah, overall, I'd say he has probably received a bit of a profile boost, and I think that most people will want to see him again. So yeah. V. David Ho says, what do you think of Usyk's power? People say he doesn't have power, but he was able to really daze almost every one of his opponents. Yeah, I think he's more of an accurate puncher than he is a hellacious puncher. I think his accuracy is what rattles people, like the Daniel Dubois knockdown's a really good example. Obviously, Daniel took the easy way out, but he was still hurt enough there to take a knee. And it was sort of like a lead jab / hook and it wasn't. He didn't load up on it like dramatically, but he did just put a bit of mustard on it, and it was really accurate. He connected with the chin really nicely, and it was super impressive. To be fair, like he is super impressive, Alexander Usyk. I don't think it's that he doesn't have power. I think it's that he boxes in a way that means he's not setting his feet loads, which means that when he does throw hard, it's going to be with less set feet. So there's going to be just by nature less power. So I think he probably does punch, like single shot punch. I reckon he's a pretty big puncher, but he moves so much that it kind of negates it, but he still punches hard enough when moving that it hurts, if you understand what I mean. So yeah. I think what we're going to do as well, guys, is on this stream, I will go through and answer your questions, but also I'm going to, we'll get on a couple of different platforms and see what the latest news is, and we can react to it together. Maybe do a bit of Reddit, maybe do a bit of Twitter. So we'll see. Chili T, hello mate, how are you? Hope you're doing well, says Chili T. Thoughts on Turkey's statement regarding no longer supporting runners? Do you know what? This is actually quite interesting. This is actually an interesting point, because I saw that and I instantly had some thoughts about it, and I thought it might be worth a video. But what I think is that whilst I don't like fights where, this is my instant gut reaction, I might change my mind, but whilst I don't like fights where one guy's on the back foot running about the place, I have to say that I believe you can't really tell people what to do. You can't tell people that they can't box like that. Like, sure, like let them lose the fight that way. It's like, but sometimes fighters win that way as well. Like sometimes that's the only shot that's landed in a round, and then they get on their bike again, which isn't really engaging in the contest. But that's the whole point of there being ropes, right? Is that there's an enclosed space and you can do what you want with the space. So unless they actually change the rules of boxing to say that if you don't attempt to engage for, let's say, 20 seconds or something, that 10 seconds, whatever it is, that you can be docked points. As long as it's within the letter of the law, it's ridiculous. And I don't think he can come out and say that we're not going to support fights that do that. You know, it's not up to you. It's really not up to you. I think that, yeah, it's not fun to watch at times, but you also can't go, like, to take a football example, you can't go to Mourinho's Chelsea in 2004 and say you can't do a smash and grab. You can't say, oh, you did 20 minutes have gone by, you've parked the bus because you're 1-0 up. You know, you have to try and play. You know, you can't do that. So I don't know. It's a difficult one. Chelsea probably too good of an example. I'd say maybe like a Stoke City or someone like that. A team that sits deep, they just play horrible football, but they get results. You know, you can't tell them how to play football. So I don't know. I that's my immediate thoughts. You might agree or disagree, but that's what I think right now. God of Light says, good evening, mate. Great content recently. Keep it up. Keep it up yourself, mate, with the the presence on this channel. Thank you. Appreciate it. What I'm actually going to say, do you know what, guys, what we can do? 1 second. Is we can actually do callers if people are interested. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to message someone to see if they want to come on, because he's a good lad. I've spoken to him a few times. And we'll see if he's interested. Oh, he's just sent me something. That's so random. Bro, do you want to come on the live for a bit? We'll see if he wants to come on. But basically, there's this lad who, he's a former boxer who I chat with sometimes. He's got good opinions. I think it might be nice to make this a bit more of an interactive show. So we'll see if we can start doing some call-ins. Because, yeah, I think it'd be nice to add another dynamic to the show. So let's see. Who else have we got in the chat? Big DD says, I'll be honest, I'm a massive fan of Huni after his last fight. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt good about Huni after that fight. Okay, yeah, so this lad wants to come on the chat, so we'll do that. I'll do it on we can do Discord. Let's try that. Okay, let me just get this set up, guys. I'll just be 2 minutes. Right. Let me just do this. Right, how do I add people on Discord? Is the question. Add friend, there we go. What's your name on the... Cool. And then we can make this... yeah, we can make this a bit more interactive. It'd be good to get to know some of you guys a bit better. Some of the people that comment regularly. And then, yeah, this is going to be a bit of an experiment on the fly, so it could go horribly wrong. All right, 10 minutes. Okay, fine. All good. I'm on now. All right. If anyone else wants to jump on, then just drop your username for Discord in the chat, and I can add you. And yeah, we can have a chat. So yeah, if anyone wants to come on, just let me know. But for now, I'll just keep working through the comments. And if someone would like to come on, just give me a shout. Especially if you're a member, it'd be cool to have you on. David MC says, hey, Henry. Hey, all. Big up, David. Tom says, heavyweight KO of the year. Is it Wardley's stoppage or Dave Allen's finish? I mean, you know I'm going to say Dave Allen's finish. Like, you know I am. Because I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan, so yeah. In fact, I don't think he'll do it, but I could see if I could get Dave on. I doubt he'll do it. But let's see. Let's see. I bet he doesn't do Discord, though. What the fuck does Dave do? Absolute boxing. Well, that's an interesting question. Let me just pull that up quickly because I want to talk about that. GBM cancelled their show in Galway Island this week and basically scrapped it with no reason, and now on the same day have a show in Hull. Well, if Alex on MMA is still in the chat, I'm sure he could answer that for you because he does some stuff with them. So Alex, if you're in the chat, then perhaps you can enlighten us as to why the Island show got cancelled. I did not know about that. I guess they've got more boxers in Hull. But yeah, it's a bit weird. Let me just try and get Dave. Let me just try. I don't think I've not spoken to. I sent him a message when he won the fight. I've not really wanted to bother him because loads of people have been asking him for interviews and stuff. So I've not messaged him about it. But let me just see now if you want to come on. Hi, mate. Random one. I'm on a live right now. Would you like to come on for a bit? If you're free. Can't listen right now. Cool, I've asked him. The worst he can do is ignore. So let me get back to these comments. Absolute Boxing says, met Daniel and Don Charles last week. Got some interesting insight. Wish I recorded it, but might have ruined the moment. Interesting. What did they tell you, Absolute Boxing? Or are you saving it for some kind of big reveal? Who do you think gets the last Chisora fight? It looks like it might be Joseph Parker, because if Dylan White's going to fight Moses Itauma, then I would say that because I thought it would be Chisora. So I thought it would be Dylan White against Chisora, but it's not. So so yeah, that's obviously not going to happen. So I thought that's what it would be, but obviously he wants something else. So yeah, I guess Joseph Parker could be the one, but they've already had 2 fights, which I actually forgot. I thought they only had 1, and I remember they actually fought twice in the same year, which seems a bit weird, doesn't it? I I don't see any point in it being Parker because he doesn't even have a world title if that's what Chisora wants. Why would he just take a random hard fight? I suppose it's worth money. People love Joseph Parker. I don't really know who else it could be, to be honest. He can't fight Tyson Fury again. I'm sure he'd love to, but I think we've all had enough of that trilogy. Maybe, I mean, what about Anthony Joshua? Would it be so far-fetched for AJ to fight Derek Chisora as the tune-up for the Fury fight? I mean, I think Chisora would have a chance in that fight based on recent form and stuff. I think there's a chance Chisora could do something there. What do people think about that? Dritaro Demjaha says, nice, was looking forward to this. Excellent. MB says, what are your thoughts on the Kambosos fight this weekend? It feels increasingly like Kambosos is being used as an opponent because of his previous achievements, and people kind of know he's a bit beatable. So, I don't know. He's the kind of guy, if you underestimate him, he can beat you, but I don't fancy him to win the fight, but I also haven't studied it. So I hate, you guys know I hate commenting unless I've actually taken the time to think about things properly. So yeah, David says, this is on the conversation before about fighters not engaging. There are fighters who just come to not engage, like Skull and Haney against Ramirez. But the problem is the casual audience will accuse elite technicians like Shakur of not engaging. Yeah, this is the issue. You're right. Some fighters get accused of running that don't really run. But equally, it's like they just still don't like watching them. Which I appreciate that. It's okay to not like things. And I can understand why watching someone who's really defensive like Shakur would just not be that entertaining. So it's one of them. Yeah, but there's definitely a difference between making small adjustments, being defensively sound, counter-punching effectively, not having huge punch output, and literally just getting on your bike. The worst one, the one I always reference, it's the worst one I've ever seen, is Malik Scott against Luis Ortiz. That was absolutely effing tragic. David MC says, hit the like button, guys. Yes, if you could do that, I would really appreciate it, people. That would be great. I have messaged. Who else could I message to see if they want to come on? Well, maybe we'll just leave it with us for now and see what pops up. As I say, if anyone in the chat would like to jump on, you can add me on Discord, and we can talk. In fact, if I go to my boxing club on here, can I have a call around? Let me just click on this person to test it. I have to add people. Okay, fine. Yeah, okay. So we can become friends on Discord and then we can talk. Bethaniel, big up. How are you, mate? Salute back to you. Chili T says, I need to see the White Rhino versus Fabio next, please. I mean, that's an interesting one. I'd love it if Dave would come on because we could actually have a chat about that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Dave's got a much better chin than Huni does. But equally, he doesn't have the punch output of Huni. They're actually completely different fighters. And I think that Wardley could keep it at range and look to land a few heavy shots. But equally, is Wardley that much better of a boxer, footwork-wise, than Johnny Fisher? I'd say that if you can get Wardley into the pocket, defensively, he's not as bad as Fisher, but similar. Like, he has no guard. He really doesn't have a guard, Wardley. So I don't think it's a wild shout to say that Dave Allen could beat Wardley. That's probably Dave's best chance of winning a fight at the top level, or someone who's deemed to be at the top level right now. Equally, you can get iced. And even if you don't get iced, you can get really hurt. I think Wardley's stamina would be the biggest problem in that one for Dave. But I'm hoping he's going to keep building his fitness up. And yeah. G-Bag says, hi, Henry. Following Nakatani's performance on the weekend, where does he rank on your pound-for-pound list? Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Catterall fight and the Zoo versus Fundora rematch. Okay, let's take this one by one. So Nakatani, I have to be honest, I'm studying Nakatani at the moment. I literally spent like 5 hours yesterday just like watching Nakatani stuff because I was thinking about making a Nakatani video, but I don't feel ready to make a Nakatani video because, to be honest with you, I've just not really followed his career closely enough so far, but I'm really interested in him as a fighter. I think he's a super a super interesting character. And given this Inoue fight's coming, and it's probably going to be a mega fight, I'm really interested to learn more about him. So, I think Nakatani is very, very good. I think he's probably underrated because in the West, we've just not seen enough of him. It's funny, actually, because he's trained in Vegas for a long time. Sorry, LA for a long time. But he doesn't really speak English still. And not enough that he's confident anyway. And I'm the more I learn about him, the more I like him. I think he's great. I do not think at this point, based on what I've seen so far, that he'll beat Inoue. But I think it'll be a genuine super fight, a genuinely competitive fight. He's also only, I think Nakatani's 26, so he's still improving. Is he top 10 pound for pound? Maybe it's Western arrogance to say he's not. Because at the end of the day, like, a lot of the guys he's fought have been Asian. And I just don't know much about them. But as I understand it, in Japan, the common practice is to match your fighters quite hard early on. So Nakatani might be a lot better than we think he is. And we obviously saw the KO of Maloney. Brilliant KO. The way he fights is pretty irresistible. He does leave himself open for counter shots, though, and that is kind of why I think Inoue might win that fight. I think Inoue is a bit too fast for him. And because he's a bantamweight rather than a super bantamweight, which is where Inoue is, I just sort of have a feeling that, yeah, it's a difficult one. But basically, where does he rank on my pound for pound list? Around number 10. But I think he might not even make top 10. But that might also just be because I know I'm more familiar with the other guys on the list. That might be why. But he's definitely in the conversation, and that's all you can really say with the pound for pound, because it isn't definitive at the end of the day. And I really think Nakatani is brilliant. I think he's really, really good. And I want to watch him more. Big up Reese Cooper. I hope you are well too, mate. Good morning to Al Capone. Absolute Boxing says, Kieran Malloy, this is the GBM show. Kieran Malloy, the headliner, has now parted with GBM over it because of how kept in the shadows it was. The fight was supposed to be June 28th. He sold over 2K tickets alone. Well, it's not good, is it? But I don't think Alex is in the chat, so I don't have any information on that, mate, unfortunately. So, yeah. Wish I could help you there. And, okay, cool. So this lad's going to join. Let me just get the link for him. How do I add him as a friend? Add me on Discord. A guy called Henry. Cool. Should work. Let's have a look at what else we've got here. Wojciech says, from our perspective, it's not easy. It's easy to not notice Nakatani and Inoue's shadow, but he's a beast. Yeah, that's true. And like Inoue does overshadow him, but I think that's just us not being familiar with the Japanese boxing market. Because like obviously, like a country could have more than one good fighter. Inoue is pound for pound probably top. Well, he is top 3 pound for pound, really. So yeah, it in any country he's going to be a bit overshadowed, isn't he? But he's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. Long story short. G-Bag says, does Zurdo have a good chance in a potential unification fight versus Opetaia? I can see why he's ducking him given his brutal knockout over Squayo. I mean, he won't be worried about what he did to Squayo because Squayo's just no level of opposition. He's terrible. He should never have been in there with Opetaia. It was a complete mismatch. I think that he'll be more worried based on, some of the other fights we've seen him in. I don't think he has a good chance. I think he has a chance. I make Opetaia the significant favorite in that one. It doesn't mean I don't think Zurdo has any chance. I just think Opetaia is a heavy favorite. I think the physicality will be too much for Zurdo because he's not a cruiserweight Zurdo. And yeah, he beat up Billum Smith, but you know, Opetaia's a much better boxer than Billum Smith, so he's just much slicker. Obviously, Billum Smith it was a good win for Zurdo, but Billum Smith has a limited way of fighting, and he does it very well. What he does, but if you can negate it, then you win, and that's what happened. So, Mick says, "Do you think AJ Fury happens this year?" All right, hang on. Let me just. That could be a good first conversation for this one. Let me call him in and let me see if this will work. Let's see. I'm ringing him, so we'll see if it works. Hello. Yes, bro, I can hear you. Let me just make your audio go out of the stream. So you are live. Say something real quick. That's not working yet. Hang on. I know what it is. Hang on. I know what it is. Right, try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. All right. So, chat, we have got Callum on the call, and Callum he's got a good boxing brain. You know, that's why we've got him on, because he knows his boxing. We chat sometimes after fights. We just shoot the shit, and I thought, you know what, he's actually a really good person to bring on a stream. So, Callum, do you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah. So I'm Callum. People know me by Cali. I got like quite a good background knowledge in boxing. Boxing amateurs from when I was young. Box for Team GB. I fought some good fighters at amateur who are doing quite decent at pro now. And I'm currently just getting over an injury. Just come back home from an operation a few days ago. So yeah.
Nice, bro. Who can you give us some of the names of guys you boxed in the amateurs, or like sparred or like boxed with?
Yeah,
With?
Joshua Boatsi, Vidal Riley, like a few good boxers, you know.
Yeah, that's wicked. Like I know people listening will get excited about that, because they're some of the more significant names out there at the minute on the British scene. Let's you know what? Let's start with the question someone just asked me. It's a horribly cliched question. Sorry, Mick, but do you think AJ Fury will happen this year? Callum, what do you think about that one?
Do you know what? It's a really difficult one to say, because with Tyson Fury, you never know where his mindset's at. Like, you don't know if he's with it or not. And I don't actually know what's going on with Joshua's injury right now, because I heard he had an injury to the hand, so it depends. But hopefully that gets all sorted. I would have thought it would have been for the end of the year. If not, then definitely the beginning of next year. But that's if Fury actually wants to come back, you know?
Yeah, I saw Eddie Hearn came out yesterday and said that 2026 will probably be AJ's last year in boxing, and he said that he thinks there'll be an opponent this year setting him up for a massive fight next year. So it sounds like there won't be a Fury fight this year.
Yeah.
But
it would be next year then. Yeah.
That's what
Just
it
out of
sounds like.
curiosity, who do you think wins that?
Do you know what? I don't think there's an obvious answer, actually. I did, you know, the conventional wisdom would be Tyson Fury will outbox Anthony Joshua, and also people sort of think that Fury has quite a bit more left in the tank. So I think that just without thinking about it tactically, I think my gut reaction is to say Fury, just because, you know, he does seem to have a bit more left. In terms of, you know, when you look at the Usyk fights, he was competitive throughout the two fights. And, you know, but then you could argue that, like, you know, styles make fights, obviously, and it's a lot of his ability to be competitive still at this point is because he's so massive. And he does still have, you know, good technical ability, good feet. But if he's in there with someone of comparable size who has, you know, a good, you know, speed on their punch from point A to point B, like a Wilder, for example, had in his prime, which I think AJ has, you know, not to the same degree Wilder had it, but I do think that AJ probably he's more explosive than Usyk, isn't he? Like, his output's not the same. His ability to land shots and set them up isn't the same, but he is a big unit. And I do just wonder, based on the fact Ngannou actually managed to land on Fury, that was obviously a Fury that didn't take it too seriously, I think. But I do just wonder if AJ has a better chance than people give him credit for. What do you think?
So if we was going back a few years ago, I would have said Fury all day, every day. I never thought at any point thought Joshua would beat Fury, but after the Ngannou fight, but then Joshua had the Dubois fight. I still favour Fury slightly. I give Joshua as a puncher. He's a bigger puncher. I think he can hurt
Yeah.
Fury, but I do think Fury will outbox him, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. You still
And
think that now?
yeah, I still think he'll outbox him now. It just depends whether he can land, and it depends what kind of power Fury comes with. Like, I think if Fury sat on him and pushed forward, I think he could stop Joshua.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think they're both damaged goods at this point, and I do
I,
think that I do think that
I
actually Fury's punch resistance isn't what it was either. I think that's declined a little bit.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a 60-40 fight, really, to Fury. I wouldn't be surprised if Joshua stopped Fury, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fury outboxed Joshua and stopped him mid to late, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that fight is it's still interesting though. That's the thing. Like, even though my main focus is on finding out who the best heavyweight in the world is, like always, I always want to know who the best is, and I think fighters should get their opportunity to prove that case. I do think that it's it's definitely still a matchup I'd like to see. Just because it's, whilst it won't be the Joshua and the Fury, it will still be a version of them. You'll get a version of them in there, and because they've both deteriorated to a certain point, it should somewhat resemble what it would have been. I think they've both deteriorated a similar amount at this point, really.
I agree. I think Baby Miller ruined Joshua's career. I think
Yeah,
when he got caught for doing the peds, I think that Ruiz fight made Joshua it made him like gun shy, and that's
yeah,
what
it did.
made Joshua that's what made him so dangerous, because he was so aggressive, but he become a bit
Yeah,
scared to get hit, and it kind of like took away from what he was. I think he got ruined psychologically. I think he just couldn't handle it, like cope,
yeah,
like psychology wise, because he's always been a
yeah,
physical specimen. So I think his problem was just the psychology of it. I think he was a bit embarrassed after Ruiz fight. I don't think he wanted to get dropped or knocked out again, and then obviously it's happened a few times now, and I think it was a mindset thing with Joshua, to be honest.
yeah. I think that's right. But the thing is, I think that was going to happen to him at some point, no matter what. I think it was Ruiz that got him, but someone was always going to get him. The way he overthrew the right hand, as you saw in that one where Ruiz caught him, he really committed to his shots. And I think he was always going to get countered at some point. And there's not, but the thing is, you're right, it would have lasted a lot longer because there's not that many good counter punches in the heavyweight division.
But that's a good what you say there. That's a good question, because this is my question to you: is
Yeah.
do you think if it would have happened to him against someone who was a better fighter, because it happened to him in a situation where it shouldn't have, like he had
Mm,
Ruiz hurt, he shouldn't have lost that fight, and is
mm.
it who knocked him out that affected him, or is it the fact that he got knocked out in general? Like, so is it
Yeah.
because do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. I think it was the fact he got knocked out in general. I don't think that. I just think it was his mindset. I think he had. I don't want to say a bully mindset, but it is a bit of that. Like, he's a front runner. Like when he was at the top, he was psychologically good. But as soon as that got pulled into doubt, it definitely affected him way more
This
than it should have.
this might be an unpopular opinion, and I don't even want to be the guy to upset everyone, but I've always thought Joshua was a bit overrated, to be honest. I
Yeah. No, I
like
agree with you.
I always thought, because everyone said if he fought Wilder had nothing, he would have beaten, but like I think a prime Wilder would have knocked Joshua out in like 6 rounds.
Yeah, I felt that too. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not. I don't think that's an unreasonable opinion to say because look, at the end of the day, Eddie got him really, really hyped up. He made him look like he was this indestructible beast of heavyweight, which is his job, right? But I do agree
Yeah.
with you. I think the Wilder would have landed on him at some point. But at the same time, I think that it's easy to be revisionist and it goes both ways. Look, at the time, I thought you were right at the time that Wilder would land one on AJ. But then as soon as Wilder started fighting half-decent guys, he's been getting destroyed. And yes, he's definitely declined and he's definitely a bit of a shot fighter. But equally, we never saw him consistently fight top-level guys in his prime. The only guy he fought was Luis Ortiz, and we don't even really know how good Luis Ortiz was.
Do you know what? I thought Ortiz was a great fighter, man. He was a bit old, and he had like some bad fights, but I thought when he fought Wilder, he performed really well. And the
Yeah,
thing
he
with
was good.
Wilder, I think Fury, them 3 Fury fights, done him. He took a lot of punishment. He got knocked down a few times, but apart from the second one, them fights were competitive. The first one was competitive. And
Yeah,
the third one was definitely competitive. They knocked each other down like 4 times. And I thought Wilder was going to win that. I don't know how Fury managed to pull himself off the canvas after that third knockdown. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I think that it took it out of him, man. And he's another one, like, the reason he done so bad is he really couldn't imagine he got beat by Fury. So he's making an excuse after an excuse after excuse. Like, as a boxer, because we always talk about this, I say, if you lose, even if you think you've been done by the judges or you've been hard done by, you should always take it as, oh, you know what? No excuses. I could have done
yeah,
better. Like, if you've got something in the back of your mind why you think it is, like, you're not going to improve because you think, oh, like it was lucky or I should have won.
yeah.
It's a bad mindset to have as a boxer, 100%.
Oh, definitely, mate. Yeah, the amount of fighters who run on delusion is crazy. And the issue is that you've got to be objective and honest with yourself about your performance. That's why actually I was really impressed with Ben Whitaker and what he did with Liam Cameron. And obviously people know that he actually used my breakdown to instruct his game plan. And look, that's impressive to me. Someone that can go and take objective criticism and then go away and implement it. That's really impressive. That shows a high level of intelligence for me.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed by that from Whitaker. And I get that some guys outwardly are saying one thing and inwardly are doing another. And I think Ben's a bit like that. I think he is outwardly braggadocious and outwardly cocky, but inwardly I think he knew exactly what the situation was. And
Yeah. Whitaker, I'm not gonna lie, as an amateur, he was a freak.
was he?
Some yeah, like some people's amateur style don't translate into pros. Like you get really good amateurs
Yeah.
who styles just don't match pros. But like as an amateur, he was unreal, man. Like you watch him,
Mm.
sometimes he just like you wouldn't get much better. Like how he boxed when he was fighting the guys who weren't as good, he was always like that, man. But like at amateurs, like
Mm.
it's not so much about power; it was more about
Yeah, of course.
showmanship, point scoring. So like he could do that all day. He wouldn't. He was never a hard hitter, but like he'd make people look silly and he'd put them combinations together. And it was only 3 rounds, so
Well, that's the
like.
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
So the gas tank doesn't. That's another thing. Like some amateurs are really good, but when you go pro and you start getting into 4, 5, 6 rounds, it's a different kind of fitness completely. I know some amateurs who are super fit can do 3 rounds easy, but when they start hitting the 7 mark round, they start
Yeah.
gassing out, and that can be an issue for some guys as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's I'm really not an amateur boxing fan, to be honest with you. I just feel like what I like about the pros is that it's this longer chess match, basically, and the danger is so real. That's why it's a chess match, because someone sets you up for something and then you get seriously hurt. I feel like the amateurs is way more volume based, speed
Yeah,
based, and I just don't really like watching it. I find it a bit frantic. And it's really
yeah,
hard to, like, when I'm watching boxing, my favorite thing about it is trying to work out who's doing what and who's trying to like set who up for what, trying to see the plan. And I just feel like in the amateurs, that component's just not there to the same degree.
I 1 sec. I'm just going on mute. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I'm just trying to find a comment actually from before. I think it's gone now, but basically it was talking about Whyte against Itauma, which we should talk about actually, because I've not spoken about that yet because I wanted to wait for it to be announced, and I will do a proper video, like a proper like narrative video when the fight actually gets announced. Sorry, my hair's doing my freaking head in. Yeah, I'll do a proper narrative video once I get it announced. But I think we should talk about that. Let me see if there's any comments about it I can put on the screen. Oh, here we go. This'll do. Charlie Hodge. Morning, Henry. Loving your stuff at the moment, mate. What do you think of White Itauma? I personally think Moses will make him look like another Balogun if they get it on. All right, this is really interesting. So, yeah, this fight is supposedly made. Do you know what we could do, actually, is I could get the announcement thing. It's being made, apparently. And I heard Frank Warren talking about it. He refused to confirm or deny, which means that's a big confirm that it is probably going to happen. Now, let me just see if I can find Ring Magazine, because they're the ones who shared the news, aren't they? But basically, yeah, as soon as it's actually announced and there's a presser and stuff, I will do a proper video about this. But in the meantime, we'll talk about Bakole Lorena as well, because I actually think that's quite an interesting fight. Where is it? I'm just trying to find the announcement graphic so I can put it on screen so people know what we're talking about. Quite a bit of Canelo Crawford stuff here, which has buried it. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's just talk about it. So, my thoughts on that fight, on Itauma against Dillian Whyte. I think it makes sense. I think that you could argue it's a little bit too early. You could definitely argue that, because the experience differential between Whyte and Itauma in the pros is absolutely ginormous. But what I will say is, Dillian Whyte doesn't look like the same fighter anymore. I think boxing's all about timing. How you match your opponents is all about timing. And I think Dillian Whyte at this point has deteriorated enough to make him an easier fight than he would have been once upon a time. But also, you get him while he's still got a profile. And that's the big thing here. That's the big thing here. They need to start building Moses Itauma's profile, because one of the reasons he will struggle is because people won't want to fight him. He will struggle to get those guys that are at a level where they can test him but not trouble him, because they're going to want to get paid very well. The only way that you can enhance the chances of that are basically by building his profile to the point where there's more money being generated, and therefore you can afford to pay people a bit more money. So that's what, that's why AJ was moved pretty quickly, because he was generating loads of money from the off. So my opinion on it is that it's very much about taking an opportunity, a commercial opportunity, to get Dillian Whyte in the ring while they still can. And, this could be Dillian Whyte's last year in boxing, realistically. Based on what I saw in the ring against Tete, I don't think he's got much left. So, with that in mind, I think it's just a timing move. And do I think Whyte can trouble him? I do think that Whyte will be able to put it on him in a way the others haven't so far. Look, he's got slow feet, Dillian Whyte. But one thing you know about Dillian Whyte is that he will try and slug it out. And one thing I'll say about Itauma is he looks to counter. And his feet are very quick. They're much too quick for Dillian Whyte. And it might be a case of Itauma jumps in there, hits him with a 1-2, slips inside, gets in the pocket, as he likes to do, and does very comfortably, bangs an uppercut on Whyte's chin and knocks him out, because we all know Dillian Whyte's got that susceptibility. But equally, there will be moments where Dillian can at least try and make it uncomfortable for him. At the very least, we might get to see what the physical strength of Itauma is like to a greater degree. So it's a really interesting one. We'll definitely ask Callum about it when he's back in a second. But yeah, let's have a look. Peep says, just joined, so sorry if it's been mentioned already. Did you see Dave hinting he is fighting Labanot for the EBU? No, I don't even know who Labanot is. Who is Labanot? We will continue the Itauma Whyte chat in a sec when Callum gets back. Let me... Who is Labanot? Labanot Zochhaj. He's German, 6 foot, and he has the EBU title. So, yeah, I mean, if Dave wants to win the EBU title, then why not? If he's thinking more about titles, I mean, I have no idea who this guy is. He's 21-0-1. So he's got a draw in his record. Other than that, he's won all his fights. He's not beaten anybody I've heard of. So, yeah, if that's what Dave wants, why not? Definitely a fight he'll be able to make. East Midlands fight fan Henry, how has Huni's performance been received in Australia? I don't really know, mate, because I got sick after the fight. I was sick during the fight. I've not even really been in the gym. I've only been in the gym once since that fight, so I've not had a chance to speak to people. But I'm sure it went down well. I think he's one of the best guys they've produced in a long time. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have the power, and I don't think he's going to get it either. But he's 26. There's a chance he'll get a bit more powerful. It's a weird one, though. I've never seen someone swing so hard and then it means so little when the punch actually connects. Reese Cooper said, did you see Jai broke that guy's jaw in 2 places? I did see that. It looked awful. I don't know if you guys saw my video on it, but there was, a whole story behind that jaw break because, at the end of the day, that shouldn't really have happened. The guy should not have been in there with Opetaia. But Opetaia's got a problem. He can't really get fights at the top level. There's not that much to make with him really either at cruiserweight. I think cruiserweight is such a dull division right now that for me, if you can make the Zurdo fight next, great. If you can't, just get to heavyweight. Get to heavyweight and start competing up there. Maybe he doesn't fancy it. Maybe he just wants more world titles and stuff. The Zurdo fight would be a decent revenue generator, but I don't know, man. I just think that it'll be harder for Opetaia at heavyweight because he's not the biggest guy, but I also think that that's where all the money is. That's where all the interesting matchups are. So it's a difficult one. And if you match him carefully, there are smaller heavyweights. So yeah, it's possible. David says, even in Japan, Nakatani isn't as big as a star as he should be. Inoue, Taraji, and Tenshin are all bigger stars in boxing than he is in Japan. Yeah, I think he's getting there though now, to be fair. He's starting to be recognized. Charlie says, if Big Joe Parker gets his shot, do you think he's got much of a chance of beating the top dogs, Usyk or Dubois? Well, I think that Dubois... I thought that Dubois was going to beat Parker. I felt he was too young and too fresh for him. And stylistically, I think Parker has a good style for Dubois, but I think Dubois has a good style for Parker. I think they'll gel very nicely. I think with the way Dubois boxes now, I think he's got a few years of being able to do it the way he's doing it because he is very aggressive now. I am absolutely convinced that Dubois can be outboxed, but I think the problem for me is the foot speed. I think it's the foot speed that will be the problem in that one. I think that Dubois showed against AJ how fast a fresh fighter with good legs can close the gap. And I think that, I've seen him go on the front foot, Parker. He definitely can do it. But generally speaking, he's more of a lateral movement, back foot kind of heavyweight now, walking you onto fights. And I just think that he... I think that Dubois will close that gap quickly. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think he would win, but it's not a given. It's not a certainty. Callum's taking a little while. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if he's listening, but I'm going to get him off the call, and then I'll get someone else, and I can get Callum back on in a bit. So who else have we got? I think someone else was asking about it. So yeah, guys, if you add me on Discord, a guy called Henry, then I can get you on a call. So Fight Sport Talk is asking, is there a StreamYard link or Discord? Yeah, Discord, mate, if you want to jump on. I actually saw a member, 202 Ultra, saying something about it. What were you saying, mate? You're at your daughter's football game, so you can't come on. Well, next time, mate, next time. Add me up. Add me next time that you're free. If anybody else would like to jump on, just add me on Discord and I will dial you in. What else have we got? Boxing Stars TV says, what's up, Henry? I apologize for the lack of engagement with the videos recently, mate. You don't have to worry about that. That's fine. Appreciate you all engaging, but you don't have to apologize for not doing it. Just finished your A-levels. Congratulations, mate. Well done. Hopefully you did really well and you got what you wanted. And Let's see what else we got in here. Matt Hampson. Sorry, guys, I've lost my place a bit. Huge fan of Whyte, so very sad to see him become food for challengers. Looks shot to, but in Tete fight, but looks like the delivery to utilize his left hook is gone. Reckon Moses stops him within 5. Yeah, he doesn't look the same anymore, which is obviously really disappointing. But that's what happens. That's what happens to fighters. But he still looks game as hell. He still swings everything. He puts everything into his shots. Like, he wildly misses. He overthrows drastically poorly. And if he does that against Itauma, he'll be screwed. But one thing he can do is use a jab. He can use his jab. He's got a decent jab, actually, Dylan Whyte. So that will be one thing that could be a bit of a differentiator. Right, who have we got? Someone called Actual Random has added me. So let's accept that and dial them in and see. It says VBSC. Let's give this guy a go. Yeah, accept. There's 2 people. So we'll do Actual Random first. Let me try giving him a bell. See what happens. Hello. Okay, not yet. Okay, his mic's not working, so that's not going to do for now. We've got another person, VBSC. Let's try this one. Give this one a go. Let me just mute it while I'm connecting it. Hello. Hello. Oh, damn. Okay. Excellent. No worries, mate. I've got you muted right now anyway, but that's okay. I'll let people know. But thank you. We'll talk another time, bro. We'll talk another time, mate. Later. All right, so that guy was on mute, but basically he wasn't expecting me to accept him, and he was in bed next to his girlfriend who was asleep. So yeah, that's hilarious. All right. If anybody else wants to try and jump on, not much success so far. If anybody else wants to jump on, then yeah, just add me in. Oh, your Wojciech is VSBC. Okay, so Wojciech was in bed with his girlfriend. Congratulations. Yeah, that's absolutely hilarious. Poker's live. If you want to call in, you can add me on Discord. A guy called Henry. So yeah, that's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, what else have we got? Let me go back to the comments. If anyone wants to bang a super in, I'd appreciate it. That would help support things, and I will prioritize it. Otherwise, I'm just sort of skimming and pulling up what I think happens. Chainsaw says, Harry, what do you think will happen if Whyte lands one of his signature left hooks on Itauma? I think he'd knock him out, probably, because his signature left hook is a powerful shot. Very powerful shot. But he shouldn't be hitting him clean with one of those at this point in his career. The counter left hook is such a well-documented shot with Whyte as well that everyone knows to expect it now. So there's no way Itauma should be getting hit with that. Now, look, I've seen people analyzing Itauma and sort of claiming that he has defensive deficiencies, that he leaves himself open for counters. I've seen a couple of videos where people are talking about that. To be honest with you, I've not spoken about it because when you're fighting someone like Mike Balogun and you leave yourself open for a counterpunch, it's just not the same thing. You don't go in there expecting to get hit, really, or for it to bother you if you do get hit, so you take more chances to take the guy out. That's why boxing, that's why you can knock more guys out when they're a lower level, because you just take more opportunities, chances. You take bigger risks. So I don't worry about it as much as other people do. Also, there was this particular moment that people were showing where he throws and hits Balogun, and then Balogun has a right hook, which lands on the neck of Itauma. But if you watch that, Itauma's actually throwing his southpaw backhand, so he's twisting out the way. So even though the shot lands, his head is turning as he does it, and it's hard to see it slow speed, it makes it look slow motion. Sorry, it makes it look a bit weird. All right, we've got someone else, Lord Typhon. Let's see who this is. I'm going to mute it first just to make sure it's not a troll, someone crazy. Let me give them a ring and see if they pick up. Hello. Hello. Hello, mate. What's your name? Josh. All right, Josh. Let me. You seem like a normal person, so let me unmute you. Right, guys. So we've got Josh on a call. Where are you calling from, Josh?
I'm in Kent at the moment, in England.
You're in Kent. Very nice. Yeah, very nice indeed. So, anything you want to chat about, mate, or do you want me to? Do you want to continue the Dylan Whyte Itauma chat we were just having?
Well, we can go with whatever. If we want to do Dylan Whyte and Itauma, we can do that.
Yeah, let's do it. What do you make of the matchup? Are you excited by it? Do you think it's sort of just a bit of prospect building and White's a bit short? Like, what do you reckon?
I think what I'd like to see from this matchup, I'd like to see Dylan Whyte really put it on Itauma.
Yeah.
Both in the ring and in the build-up. Because we haven't seen anyone, like, especially in the build-up, no one's really ruffled his feathers. He's always like he's really calm, really calm before every fight. And he just goes through the motions. So I'd like to see like Dylan Whyte almost come in and like really anger him, pull some out of him that we haven't seen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Moses seems psychologically really solid, really in control. And you're absolutely right. It'll be really interesting to see if Dylan Whyte comes in there and sticks it on him mentally to see how he reacts. I suspect that Itauma will be fine. I think that we'll see it like water off a duck's back and he'll take it in his stride. But I think that Whyte may try pushing a few buttons to see what happens. And then if he gets a reaction, then brilliant, he'll double down. And if he doesn't, he'll probably just leave it because he knows that he'll be the A side financially in this one. But there won't be too much onus on him to build the fight. That will be the promoter's jobs. But what do you make of the fight from a technical standpoint? Do you think that Dylan Whyte has a chance of beating Itauma when it seems like he's a bit of an underdog in most people's opinions?
I think Itauma's going to pretty much do what he's done to his last 8. Take him out and take him out early. Make another statement.
Yeah.
I think he's too good at the time, like as you were saying earlier, it's about timing. And the time that he's caught Dylan Whyte is when he's coming down the mountain. And Itauma can obviously use his name to climb above it. And I just think he's too quick and he's too intelligent. He's like that. That's what people like, especially like more casual fans, don't get about Itauma. Is like he's extremely intelligent. He sets his shots up really well. Yeah, it's like when he was fighting Dempsey McKean. When I watched that fight, I was on a call with like a few of my friends, and they're more casual boxing fans. It was like their first or second time actually watching Itauma.
Yeah,
and just the moment where he feints low to the body like he does with his lead hand, and he comes over with that monstrous overhand left and just starches him. It had them in fits. They loved it. and this, I tried to say to him, this is what he does. This is he's the future. I don't think there's anyone within the next few fights, depending on who they match him with, who's going to stand up to it. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Just going to say thank you to Boxstars TV for the little £2 super chat. Do appreciate it, mate. Those are good thoughts. Are you a big boxing fan then, Josh?
Oh, over the last sort of maybe three or 4 years, I've really gotten into all combat sports, but boxing is probably my number one.
That's good to hear, mate.
Boxing.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Because people always have an automatic assumption because I like boxing that I'm going to be interested in MMA when I actually have I have zero interest in MMA, to be honest with you, which people find surprising, but I just think that's just so different. But yeah, I don't know.
There's aspects of MMA that you can do like almost as a crossover into boxing, but there's not many aspects of boxing that cross over into MMA because
Yeah,
boxing
that's
is
facts.
It's one facet of fighting. It's just your fist. Obviously, in MMA you can do pretty much whatever you want, but I just like the fighting when it comes to MMA, not so much the technical things.
Yeah, do you train yourself?
I want to. I want to start training, and I want to lose a bit of weight because I'm only at the moment I'll be a heavyweight, but I'm a bit short for a heavyweight. I'd get started. So.
Oh mate, I know the feeling, mate. I know the feeling. Listen, mate, thanks for the thoughts. You got anything else you want to chat about before you bounce?
I'd be interested to find out what you think about Bakole and Lorena.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting one.
But I think that could be. I think that could be a big banana skin for Bakole.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I think Bakole should win. I think it is a calculated matchup because Lorena's not the biggest heavyweight. And I think one of the things that obviously has allowed Bakole to win has been his inside game, his grappling, which is obviously horrific to watch. But when he's allowed to do it, it's one of the things that's allowed him to not get exposed defensively. And I think Lorena is actually a pretty good heavyweight. I think he's underrated. He's a decent boxer. But I don't think he's a massive puncher. I think he's like European level, basically, for a heavyweight. So yeah, I think it's a good fight. I think it's going to be a good test for Bakole, but Bakole should win. Do you think Lorena can score an upset there?
I think, as you said, I think Bakole should win, but you got to remember Lorena had Justice Huni in absolute fifth points in that fight. He had Dubois in fifth in points in their fight, and I think Bakole's the biggest thing for me is going to be Bakole's weight in this fight because last time out, his debut, he come in between 260, 270, and I think that is, especially for someone who was at one point cutting to cruiser, I think that is way too heavy. I think Lorena's movement. Right. I think Lorena's movement could prove some. It's a very difficult moments for Bakole in the ring. I think he will fight a bit dirty as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're right. I think the way I was shocked at the way Bakole did the weight actually, because I always thought that he was quite an athletic, disciplined guy. So to see him come in with all the extra body fat, I was like, I really thought he would have done it in a more sensible way, the bulk up. But it is what it is. Listen, mate, thanks for your thoughts. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Yes, mate. Cheers. Cheers for having us on.
Cheers, bro. Bye.
See you later.
Cool. All right, we'll get the next person on because we've got a few of you actually waiting now. We'll do Fight Sport Talk next because they were asking to come on. So I'll ring them and see what we got. Hello.
Brother, can you hear me?
I can hear you, I think. Who am I speaking with?
Fight Sport Talk.
Fight Sport Talk. Awesome. What do you want me to call you? You want me to call you Fight Sport Talk?
Yeah, some people call me Fight Sport. Some people, my middle name starts with J if that's easier. Whichever you prefer.
Jay, okay. I'll call you Jay then. Jay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New Zealand, other side of the world.
New Zealand. Okay, damn. Well, I'm in Melbourne, so actually I'm closer to you than I am to any of the Brits I'm talking with.
For some reason, Henry, I thought you were from the UK.
I am from the UK, but I live in Melbourne. So yeah, I moved here a year. Yes, I moved here a year ago. But listen, mate, it's good to have you on. We were just chatting about, do you know what? We'll start with the Itauma Whyte fight because that's the one that everyone's interested in. What's your immediate thoughts on that matchup?
Well, it's a fight which I feel like we know who will win. Like, I'll be very surprised if Whyte wins that fight. Not because of his lack of skills, because Whyte is a very, very classic overachiever. He's done far better than he should have in the sport. But he's one of those guys who, because he's not naturally gifted, when he ages badly. And he's aged. After Fury flattened him, So, and also on top of that, he's a guy who never takes responsibility for his defeats. And those things just don't add up well. And Itauma, very strong for a young man. So, to me, it would just lead to Whyte getting knocked out again, possibly by an uppercut. And I mean, good for Itauma to build himself up. But in terms of fights that have a lot of mystery to it, this isn't one of them for me.
Yeah, I mean the Whyte uppercut susceptibility is one of the most obvious flaws in world boxing at this point, really, isn't it? So you'd like to think that Dylan can use that as something he can counter off because he knows people are going to try and land uppercuts on him now. But at the same time, he does square himself up so much. I don't know if he's even able to avoid it, really. It's one of them. Although Tete did try to land the uppercut quite a lot. And he didn't quite manage it, but he was constantly throwing it. So maybe Whyte has kind of adjusted slightly, although there was other things landing in that fight. So probably not a great example. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Dylan Whyte is massively on the slide, and I think that the handlers of Itauma know what they're doing with the timing of this fight. And I think that it is worth, I think that Whyte will get overpaid for this one. I think he will because, you're essentially paying as an investment in Moses Itauma's talent, which is something that you don't see promoters doing enough with young talents. But it does seem that they're going, nudge, you know what, we need to build this kid now because we don't want him to be the B-side when he gets to the top table. Or at least, has a bigger share of the pie, right? So yeah, I think commercially, I mean, what do you think? Do you think commercially it's the right fight next, or do you think maybe it's a bit too much of a risk?
No, I think it's a good fight for him. Like I said, it's not a fight that I'll be breaking down on my channel thinking, well, is there much mystery of who's going to win? But in terms of his development, it is a very good fight. I mean, the goal of breaking Mike Tyson's record is gone now. So yeah, take your time. It's a good fight for him. I guess again, as somebody who's been following the sport for like 12, 13 years. We know how the story will end. Whyte, for me, is a guy who's probably going to be slurring his words a lot when he retires eventually, and I don't know when he will. So, therefore, there's a part of me that doesn't really want to see this fight, but it's boxing.
It's an interesting one. You might be right. He might show some ill effect from being in the sport, or he might be all right because if I think about Dylan Whyte and I think about his losses. I might be wrong when I'm saying this. I might just be not thinking correctly about his career, but I swear he's always been knocked out with single shots. And it's usually the guys that take consistent punishment throughout their careers that actually are the ones that end up having the psychological issues rather than the guys who just get like knocked out with a single punch. Do you think I'm right in saying that, or do you think that's maybe a bit of a generalist statement?
Definitely. I remember when I was an ignorant 20-year-old, and I thought the exact opposite. I thought if you get knocked out, the harder you get hit, the more likely you'll get knocked out, and therefore, the more damage you take. But then I realized it was the opposite, as you say, which is why big pillow gloves big pillow gloves aren't actually good for your health because you end up getting punched more. So I completely agree. I'm just talking about what I've seen in the sport. But yeah, in terms of a competitive fight, in terms of a fight where Itauma could, possibly get challenged, because Whyte is always incredibly brave, and because again, there's no breaking Mike Tyson's record. It is a good fight. I just feel that there's no real mystery on who will win. But Itauma's so young and inexperienced that you can't blame him for taking these fights. Like, it will be a more competitive fight than Itauma's had for the last few. Like, Frank Warren's basically been giving him guys who just fall over. And Dempsey McKean was maybe the exception because he almost went 12 rounds with Hrgovic, but he shouldn't have. And when that fight happened, it was a complete you-know-what.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think Dempsey McKean's actually a decent operator, and so seeing what Itauma did to him, I was like, wow, this is something special. That really got me excited. And I mean, the Balogun fight was a bit farcical because Balogun, like, what is Balogun? I don't think there's any level of. I just don't think there's anything there that he can do to any kind of heavyweight that's at the top table. So I it's just not. These fights are not going to help Itauma. And I think what's encouraging though is that Itauma's with Frank Warren, because I have to say that whilst Eddie did an incredible job with Anthony Joshua of building his commercial profile, I don't think they moved him that well early. I think that they got it perfect in terms of, like I say, commercial building, but in terms of building up his skill set, I think he skipped some really important challenges. And I don't think that Warren will let Itauma do that, hence why they didn't go for the Tyson record.
Yeah, well, I brought... Sorry, I'm just... it's early in the morning here, and I've just had some coffee.
Yeah. No, same for me, bro. Same for me.
Yeah, I pointed out to people who were really talking about Itauma breaking Tyson's record that when Tyson beat Trevor Berbick, all the bouts were scattered. Whereas here we have not just an undisputed champion, but one of the greatest, in my opinion, top 10 all-time great heavyweight champions of all time. So I thought unless Usyk gets stripped of one of the bouts, then he's not going to break the record. But also, yeah, you brought up AJ. I mean, I've actually gained the reputation on the internet as well. I've gained the reputation of many things, but one of them is an Eddie Hearn hater because I criticize. Eddie Hearn he's a very good talker, but when you get past the talk, I've talked to boxing insiders about this. He doesn't actually know the sport very well. He doesn't know how to build up fighters. He and man, do people hate me for this. He's never built up a fighter from the ground up. Joshua was the exception because
that's an interesting debate. Sorry, keep going. I want to have a think about that point. Keep going.
Oh well. I just very quickly. Joshua was the exception. When I said he's never built up a fighter from the start, a fighter who I should have clarified, because he built up Kell Brook, he built up some fighters.
Well, he didn't actually, because Kell Brook started with Frank Warren, so that's an interesting debate.
Well, so did Tony Bellew, and
indeed,
and
Carl Froch.
Yeah, Carl Froch. And that's a very interesting debate. One I'd love to have with you. But basically, what I was saying is that Eddie Hearn, he's never built up a guy from the ground up. Joshua was a gift from the gods. Heavyweight champion, Olympic heavyweight champion, good looking, knocking people out, and well spoken. So you could not go wrong with that. And like you said, he fast tracked Joshua. Like if Joshua had the proper time to build his skills and mature and not get thrown into the ring early with Vladimir Klitschko, he would have been a lot more successful than he was. So in terms of, and you've seen it with the terrible matchmaking Eddie Hearn's done, saying, "Oh, he beats Ngannou. Oh, he's the best heavyweight. He's the best heavyweight in the world again." Try to build him back with Jermaine Franklin after the Usyk fight, and Franklin, a small guy who's going to move and be difficult to look good against. So he doesn't have the experience of building fighters up, and that's a huge problem when you look at guys who he is trying to build up. Now, Frank Warren, I don't think he's done a very good job. I think he's given Itauma too many knockover jobs, personally. But Frank Warren does have a history of building guys up from the start. Calzaghe, Ricky Hatton, Prince Nassim. He did a good job building Tyson Fury back when he came back to the sport. Now, Frank Warren doesn't stick with these guys because he ends up suing them all. But in terms of knowing the sport, again, Frank Warren, despicable person, but he knows the sport way better than Eddie Hearn does.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because we like to say Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn, but at the end of the day, there's teams behind them that do the matchmaking or that recommend the matchmaking and stuff like that. So I think it's more Matchroom versus Queensberry and maybe the cultures in the two organizations. I think Queensberry have loads of experience behind the scenes of making the right matchups, of building those fights from the ground up. And I don't know who the Matchroom matchmakers are, but I would suggest that they are more, I'm not saying they're bad matchmakers, but I'm saying they're more commercially driven in their decision-making than they are, how do we build this talent up? How do we improve them as a fighter? That is my general comment. Just to go back to what you said, though, and I would love to get some thoughts in the comments from people that we can talk off about, has Eddie ever built a fighter up from the ground? Who, I'm trying to rack my brains right now and think, is there someone that Eddie Hearn signed at the start of their career and took them throughout the whole thing? I think AJ is the first example that comes to mind. Like, yes, that will take that. But other than that, that crop of Olympians under Eddie Hearn, it didn't do super well. Well, there was Joe Cordina, I suppose, who, you know, to be fair to him, he became world champion, so you can give him credit for that one. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else he signed in that era. Was James DeGale? James DeGale turned pro with Eddie Hearn as well, didn't he?
He didn't turn pro with Eddie Hearn. He actually, after he lost to George Groves, he fought on obscure cards on Mick Hennessy shows. And I mean, Mick Hennessy, I'd love to be back on Henry, because I've been a big fan of your channel for a long time. We actually started our channel
thank you,
at a similar period. And but also, you know, the UK very well. And one of the most, or actually in my opinion, the most underappreciated boxing promoter of all time is Mick Hennessy, in my opinion.
Do you reckon?
And I think so. But not to go off on a detour too much, but yeah,
we've got a Mick Hennessy fanboy in the house.
No. Well, here's the thing: not a fanboy, but just being objective. He did promote James DeGale, and he did go with Eddie Hearn to get a few title fights. Like, I believe, I may be wrong on this, but I believe he did he did fight Andre Durrell with Eddie Hearn. He also fought Lucian Bute. That was with Bute, that was a purse bid situation, so he went to Canada by himself. Then he had the Badu Jack unification with Eddie Hearn. But then there was a time when DeGale, who we all know was a very volatile guy, was calling Eddie Hearn out, saying, "I don't need this PRICK sort of thing." You know? And that's because he signed with a certain Mr. Al Heyman. So yeah, DeGale did his own thing. But yeah, he didn't. I mean, Eddie Hearn, I guess, to sum it up, because again, this is a very complex discussion. Frank Warren described the Hearns as chartered accountants, and I did a video on this after Dubois smashed Joshua, that Frank Warren outlasted the father, and he's also proven to be the better promoter than his son. He called the Eddie Hearns chartered accountants, where they look at what creates big numbers, and they don't look at the nuances or the factors that go into that. They just say, well, let's create magic again with this, but they don't actually comprehend what goes into it. And Frank Warren, again, say what you want about him, but the proof is in the pudding. He built Calzaghe up, he built Prince Nassim up, he built Ricky Haddon up. He's doing a good job with Dubois here. And again, there's plenty of flaws with Frank Warren, but he knows the sport very well. Eddie Hearn doesn't. I mean, Frank, I've done enough videos where I've ripped on this guy to where people think I have something against him. I don't. But Frank Smith is just irritating to look at, because you can tell he's a business guy, doesn't know boxing at all.
Well, I think that it's a fair debate to have. You know, I don't know the inner working. Without knowing the inner workings of the matchroom business, I don't want to come down too hard on this one. But objectively, you're right. Looking at it, and there's some people in the chat commenting, you know, Katie Taylor, AJ. But as David says, can we really count Olympians like Katie and AJ? What the thing that you've noted there, which is absolutely right, is that Frank Warren's very good at finding guys who are pros, who are kind of unknown, and then building them into something. The talent ID that they have at Queensbury is absolutely exceptional. Similar to, like, I think probably Top Rank in America might be the equivalent. They're good at picking talents. But look, mate, before I move on to the next caller, do you want to give your channel a proper plug?
Yeah, my channel is Fight Sport Talk. I, for some reason, have been suspended on Twitter, and I don't know if I can get it back. So I may have very, very extremely strange. Didn't even get a notification about it, but so I'm trying to get that back and running. don't know if I will. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. Going to start posting there. Also going to be using Telegram. I appreciate you having me on, Henry. And
Oh, good, mate.
yeah, I do. I'm not doing live streams at the moment, just shorts and long videos. But I'll be getting back into it. And yeah, Henry, thanks for having me on, and all the best. Love to be on in the future.
Definitely. And before you go, what sort of style of videos are you doing? What can people expect from your content?
Well,
On
I
the
do
YouTube,
short
on the long
video
form stuff.
Oh, on the long form stuff.
Yeah.
Because so many channels exist these days, I'm doing
Mhm.
less of the, of the typical event breakdowns because everybody's doing them.
Mhm.
So I'm doing more. So I'm thinking of doing more videos where I talk about the future of each fighter and what they can potentially go and do. How this is very relevant for the case of boxing. Like, for example, I'm going to be talking about Devin Haney, how his future looks in this very strange situation he's in, and why Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, never comes back from what he's done. And I'm also going to do, just because it was successful after Usyk Fury 2, I'm going to be doing videos from a comedic sense, making fun of certain numpties in the mainstream, because I did one on Simon Jordan after Usyk beat Tyson Fury, and people liked it.
Okay, man. It's good stuff. All right. Well, look, thanks for coming on. And if people want to check that out, the channel is Fight Sport Talk. Cheers, bro. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Let's get... let me just check the comments before I get the next person on, but we will get another person on shortly. Sorry, people. I feel like I've been a bit inattentive because it's hard to read comments and talk to someone at the same time. Big Boys Boxing says, anything one promoter says about another promoter is a load of... East Midlands Fight fan who is on the channel regularly. Eddie is a great businessman. Yeah, definitely. Frank Smith says he openly says he doesn't know boxing. Really? I didn't know that. It's a bit mad, isn't it? You'd think you'd take the time to learn about a sport that you're working in, wouldn't you? What else have we got? JM says, evening all. Any chance of a collab with Lawrence Oswecki? He's another one I've been watching recently. Do you know what? I've never spoken to Lawrence. I've never spoken directly to Lawrence, but he actually commented on one of my videos the other day. So I guess he knows who I am now. So yeah, I guess that could happen. Do you know what? All the Pain Game guys I'm connected with now. True Geordie actually messaged me recently, which was pretty cool. He's sort of a YouTuber, like being the age I am. He's a YouTuber I've watched for a long time, so that was quite nice. Do you know who else messaged me recently that I was absolutely blown away by? Was bloody Kano. Kano DM'd me on Instagram. I've listened to Kano since I was 14, so to get a follow and a message from Kano was absolutely awesome. And he was just basically like, well, I said to him, I listened to your music since I was a kid, fangirling out over him, and he was like, mate, keep up the hustle, love what you're doing. So that was pretty cool. Big Boys Boxing, I don't know how to drop a link, but if you just search a guy called Henry, it should come up. But let's get the next person on. Who have we got next? We got David. Let's go with David next. So let's give David a call and see if he's there. Hello, am I speaking with David?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is that David?
Yeah, it is. Same David in chat, member, yeah.
What's your name?
David in chat, I'm the member.
Oh, excellent. How are you, mate?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Where are you calling from?
Ireland, boss.
You're in Bath. Very nice. Very
No,
nice. How's the
Ireland.
weather?
Ireland.
Oh, Ireland. Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you said Bath, mate.
Nah, the weather's
Apologies.
shit as always. Nah, it's grand.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Where in Ireland are you based?
Tipperary.
Tipperary. Okay, cool. So, anything in particular you want to talk about that we've been chatting about this evening, mate?
We didn't bring up the Keyashon Davis thing that happened on stream.
Yeah, good point. All right, what do you think about that then?
I was very high on Keyashon before. Like, I was someone that didn't rate him at the start, but then
Yeah.
after him beating Lemos and Berenchik, I started to rate him a bit. But since losing the weight and since dropping after what happened backstage, I've just lost all respect for him. Like,
Mm. So, do you still rate him as the same level of talent, or is it just more of like a personality issue for you?
Oh, you can't deny he's a tremendous talent. Like you can't
Mm.
deny that. But like, is he really there mentally? Like, does he have the right mindset to become a top talent?
Yeah, it's a good point, to be fair. If someone can't stay disciplined, make the weight and whatnot, it does speak to a lack of discipline. But it's an interesting one with making the weight because sometimes, you know, you never know quite what's going on. Sometimes someone just didn't train. Other times, the body just wouldn't let go of the water weight. And that obviously signals that they need to move up. I mean, when I look at Keyashon, I don't think he's massive at the weight, but you know, it just depends, doesn't it? It varies guy to guy. Overall, I've not watched enough Keyashon Davis to really start making definitive comments about him. The highlights I've seen, he looks absolutely fantastic. But to be honest with you, selfishly, a small part of me was slightly relieved when the fight didn't happen because there was so much boxing that weekend that I was like, I don't know how I'm going to cover all of this. So I wasn't like overly upset when it was off.
It was a packed weekend.
Mm. It was.
Yeah, thing is
No,
though,
go, tell
like
me.
if you couldn't make the weight, why take the fight if you knew you couldn't make the weight?
Mm.
Because if
Well,
he
it's
wants to, because the WBO rules, he could have got an instant title shot if he moved up to 140. But since he got vacated, like he doesn't have the opportunity anymore. So if he moves up to 140 now, he'll just be another contender.
Yeah, no,
Very a
I agree
good
with you.
business move. You
Yeah,
think a
no, I
man
totally
called the
agree with you.
businessman would make better business decisions? Like,
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, it was a stupid move for sure. If he knew he wasn't going to make the weight, but that then sort of begs the question: did he know he wasn't going to make the weight? Because it doesn't seem sensible to stick with it to keep the fight on if you know you're not going to do it. Having said that, what usually happens is the other guy gets paid more money and they just leave the fight on. But obviously, this contract stipulated that his opponent still got paid if the other guy didn't make, if
Edwin
Keyashon
got
didn't make
full
weight.
pay.
Yeah, he got paid. So obviously, you're not going to fight if you're going to get paid, unless, I mean, I suppose could he have won the belt? That might be the only incentive. But yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's
Yeah.
Keyshon's weird. It's a weird one. Look, I need to learn more about him before I can really kind of delve
Yeah,
into
but
that
you know what's
topic.
funny? Like in the press conference, you know Abdullah Mason, the kid that he was like
Yeah.
beefing in the press conference. It looks like now Abdullah Mason's going to get that WBO title shot next. So weird how things work out.
Yeah, it is weird how yeah, that is interesting. Again, Abdullah Mason's another one I need to study. So
Oh,
I don't want to.
he's a proper talent, lad.
You think he looks good?
As long as he keeps off social media, because you know how these Americans are like now, like with their social media antics. If he can stay off social media, I think he'll be the next great American fighter. I truly believe he's that good.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I need to definitely have a little study of him. Yeah, it's quite hard to keep up in the lighter weights because the news around them is not as much, so you just don't hear their names until they're like quite close to the top. And by that time, you know, you haven't got the sort of backlog of knowledge. Where if it's like a heavyweight, look at the Moses Itauma hype right now. Like I know way more about Moses
Oh, he's
Itauma than I do
tremendous
any other.
talent.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know so much more about him than any other prospect at a similar level in the lower weights because you know they're just the exposure's there from so early on. What do you think about Itauma? What do you think of that Dylan White matchup?
As a fight to build up his career, it's a great fight because you know Dillian White has a huge fan base, like so.
Mm.
In terms of giving him rounds, I don't see that going past 3 rounds. But then in terms of
You think
building
he'll
up the
stop White within?
profile,
You think he'll stop White within 3 rounds?
I wouldn't be shocked if he did in round 1. Like White against Tete looked horrific.
He didn't look good, did he?
Especially what Fraser Clark ended up doing Tete afterwards.
Yeah, no, that was terrible. That was on an island card, wasn't it? That was on a card in Ireland, I think.
Yeah, that was in Castlebar, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's right. It was such a freaking random fight for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing about that fight is, sorry.
No, you go.
Yeah, I just hope that fight isn't the main event of the August card.
On which
I
card?
heard
Sorry.
rumors that it might be I just hope it's not the main event on the card.
I think it will be. I think it will be.
Alright.
Because I think that Dylan White will be expensive to get him in the ring with the Itauma. It does absolutely nothing for Dylan White other than pay him. So
Yeah, like
I think
in
it
terms of
will.
paying, yeah. Like we would talk about Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney to be headlining that card. Now it's Dillian White versus Itauma.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it is a big drop off.
Oh, massive, without question. They'll just need to boost the undercard, I suppose. But I think the amount Dylan White will want to get in the ring with Itauma, because basically you're buying you're basically paying for some of his commercial power, right? That's the whole point of it. So White's saying, well, that's valuable. So I think he'll be expensive as hell. And I think that you want to make that a main event because, realistically, Moses Itauma could be a world champion within the next 3 years. And he'll still be under 25 at that point, which is absolutely mental. It's an investment in Itauma, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking on the undercard of that card, Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman. What do you think of that fight?
Nick Ball, Sam Goodman. Let me have I watched Sam Goodman before? I'm not sure if I have. Just get his box rec up. Sometimes I forget who I've watched. Sam Goodman was the guy who fought on the undercard of what was it? Whose undercard was he on recently in Australia?
I forget. It could have. No, I don't think it was Tim Thu. He was scheduled to fight in a way. That's basically what he's known for. Getting injured.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I've not really watched enough of Sam Goodman to make a comment on how that matchup goes, but I think that. Yeah. Go.
I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think Nick Ball's absolutely formidable. I think he's a brilliant fighter. So, if Nick Ball is sharp and on his game, it's going to take a very slick, very good boxer to beat him. And is Sam Goodman the guy? I guess we'd find out. But I need to study him to be able to comment on that. Really,
I'm not. The thing is, though, the reason why I asked about the fight is this is Nick Ball's third time in a row fighting someone who's coming up from super bantamweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really great. Like, I get that he had a controversial decision against Jerry Ford, but since then he hasn't fought a single guy in his division. I just think he's like ducking the unification.
Yeah. Who would you rather see him fight?
Espinosa, but I know Frank Warren and Nick Ball's team probably wouldn't want to do that fight because of the size difference. Angelo Leo would be a great unification, but he just had a fight recently, so I don't know what's happening there.
Well, it's an interesting one as well because I know we like Nick Ball in the UK, but I wonder if the money's there to make these fights. That's always the issue in the lower divisions is you've got to be a really big name for the money to be there,
Yeah, you have to be massive.
Yeah, you do.
Like in Japan, those Japanese guys are massive over there, but when it comes to bring them over to the West, we saw Inoue in Las Vegas. It didn't do as well as they thought.
Yeah, the Cardenas fight wasn't as big as people were hoping, was it? I think. Look, I think there's a couple of really big names, but I think Inoue in America, they needed to start building that a long time ago. I know they tried to, but they should have really committed to it.
He was scheduled to fight, what's his name, Casemiro back in during COVID, but obviously COVID derailed those plans, so...
Yeah. All right, mate, good stuff. Well, look, thanks for your thoughts. I'm going to jump on to the next caller. Yeah, absolutely, but we'll talk again, I'm sure.
Thanks.
Nice one, mate. Cheers. Sorry, people, I got a bit of a sniffly nose. Let's get the next caller on. So we'll go with, we've got Jono. Let's get Jono on and see what he's got to say. If he's still there. Hello. Hello. All right. Don't think we got anyone there. Next one is someone called Poco. Oh, wait, I'm getting a call from Jono now. Let me disconnect this one. Sorry. Let's try this one. Hello, have we got Jono?
We do.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Where are you calling from, mate?
New Zealand.
Oh, excellent. Another Kiwi on the call.
Yeah, mate. I
Big up.
have a little channel myself called Big Boys Boxing. I'm the commenter in your chat there.
Big Boys Boxing. Oh, yeah, I saw you. So how are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Little bit disappointed with Dillian taking this Itauma fight. I think it'll be a cash
Really?
out for him.
You
Yeah,
reckon?
I think it's above his level at the moment.
Okay. All right. Break your thoughts down for me. What are you thinking?
The speed is going to kill him real quick, I think. Yeah, I can't see him dealing with the speed at all. I mean, before, even when he was closer to his prime, the speed of Joseph Parker gave him some real trouble until the head clash. So he hasn't fought anybody else with that kind of speed since, in my opinion. And we know how fast the Itauma is.
Yeah, he's absolutely rapid, isn't he? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, the reality is, if you're Dylan Whyte and you look at the top 10 in world boxing right now, how many of those do you really fancy beating? So whatever his next fight is, if it's something half decent, he's probably not going to win, like being realistic. So I think it's fair enough that he goes, you know what, let me just take the biggest payday I can get, because he is, like, realistically, who does he beat in that top 10 right now? What would you rather he did, I guess, is the question.
Well, it kind of depends on his mindset. What's he trying to do? Is he just trying to make some cash, or is he trying to get back to the top? You know, if he's trying to get back to the top, then he needs to pick something a bit more winnable for him. Obviously, he's going to be taking a pay cut to do so. He's getting up in years, I guess, and he's had lots of wars. So from his perspective, it makes sense to take the money and see what happens. It's good for Moses Itauma getting a name on his record like that, for sure. But yeah,
it's an interesting. It's an interesting conversation, because I think, look, at 37 years old, he's been knocked out 3 times now in his 3 losses. I think the difficulty with Dylan Whyte is, I'm not sure, if we're being really honest, if he actually can get back to the top level, especially when there's, like, young, hungry guys coming through. And I mean, look, the fight that I look at that is a guy at the very top right now is probably Fabio Wardley. Like, if he was looking for a fight that is winnable for him, where he goes, you know what, I'm probably the more experienced, well, definitely the more experienced, arguably the better boxer, then, you know, I reckon Wardley's the one where you go, yeah, that's a winnable fight for me. It's a big payday. It's in the UK. But at the same time, Wardley can kind of choose who he wants to fight right now, and maybe Dylan Whyte's not high up on his list. So,
well,
yeah,
Dillian's his manager as well, isn't he?
Well, indeed, that's the thing. So that ain't going to happen.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Good shout, though. That's the right type of fight. I agree.
Exactly. This is the issue when you get people in the same camp. Like, look at it's the same thing with Ben Davison right now. He's got Joshua, he's got Itauma, and he's got Wardley. Like, I think you want to see some of those guys potentially mixing it if the cards fall right. You never quite know which way the division's going to go. So I don't like it. Like, I used to hate how I used to really despise how Joseph Parker and Tyson Fury were in the same camp and how they were so matey. Because I was like, that's a fight I actually want to see, but they're never going to fight each other now because of it. I don't like it. I don't like it when there's too much cross-pollination like that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. You're in the sport to get where you want to go. Once you get inside that squared circle, there's no friends. There shouldn't be. For instance, Martin Bakole got that fight against Joseph Parker because they're mates. If they weren't mates, it was going to be Lawrence Okoli, who was prepared and all the rest of it. But at the same time, Parker knew that he was coming off the couch and he had a much better chance of beating him. So you did that to your mate, but they both got paid. It would be good if something like Tyson Fury and Joseph Parker did fight, you know. that style matchup is interesting to me as well. But this matey thing, I don't think it should go inside the ropes. I think that should be it.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's something that should limit potential matchups. That's for sure. Tell me, so this Whyte Itauma fight, a lot of people, I don't know if you're big into the tactics side of boxing, but do indulge me if you are. But basically, I'm wondering what you think about this idea that all Itauma has to do is throw an uppercut. Because yes, I understand that logic, but I do think it's a bit too simplistic. You know, if Dillian Whyte is expecting to be hit with an uppercut, then suddenly other opportunities can be created. He can use that as a sort of a chess move, if you like, bait and switch. What do you think about that? Do you think that Itauma will go in there and box instinctively, or do you think they'll develop some kind of game plan? Do you think the uppercut is the most important shot in the fight? What do you think?
The uppercut can be the most important shot, but he'd have to set it up and get Dillian stunned, or get him to revert back to type, because he, like you say, he's going to be conscious of that uppercut. Everybody knows he's vulnerable to it, so there's no doubt he's been training to not get knocked out by an uppercut. But I think the jab to the body is going to be big for Moses to set up an uppercut, get Dillian to throw. And Dillian's he's been around. He's not stupid. So I don't think there's any way in hell Moses is just going to be able to walk in there, throw a feint, and then throw an uppercut, and it's all over. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree with that. I think, like you say, though, I think the irresistible factor is the speed. And I think that once upon a time, Dillian Whyte had an actually deceptively fast check left hook, but the Tete fight showed us that seems to be gone now. So, and anyway, that is a very well-known attribute of Dillian Whyte's. I think what I will be really interested by is just seeing somebody who will actually stick it on Itauma. Now, I know Mike Balogun tried to, but, limited ability-wise, at least with Whyte, when he goes in there with those wild haymakers going a bit crazy, I think that Itauma will have the opportunity here to box to a more disciplined game plan. I already think he's been doing that, but I just think we could see it go to another level now. Like, can he actually just have his hands up and move around a bit where he needs to? When someone's really going for him. I love the reflexes, I love the speed, I love the counter punching, but I also think there's something to be said for just going in there and boxing really tactically disciplined, breaking Dillian Whyte down and sort of picking the round of like after 6, we're going to take him out, for example. Using it as an opportunity to really go in there and implement a game plan where you go, I can actually have a safety first approach when it comes to these big matchups. What do you think about that as a potential sort of makeup of the fight?
That's a good idea. It will give the fans more opportunity to see what he can do. He's not just a power puncher that's fast. We want to see more of the skill, and it would be a smart idea for him to work around Dillian Whyte for the first 3-4 rounds and see how he's tracking after that. Personally, I'm thinking he's going to get him around round 6 when Dillian starts to slow down, has been tagged a few times. But there's always the possibility with that left hook, if Dillian can manage to land something in, expose some kind of vulnerability, then it makes things a lot more interesting, and people will want to watch Itauma even more if he shows a little vulnerability,
100%.
Bit more exciting.
Before I move on to another caller, I wanted to ask you about, because you're not a Brit, do you have any interest in Joshua Fury at this point? I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this.
I'd like to see it at some point, but it's not at the top of my list or anything. It's really disappointing it hasn't happened. It is what it is. If Turkey had been involved before Tyson got to the Usyk fight, then maybe we might have seen something happen, but it is what it is, unfortunately. It's kind of like the Pacquiao-Mayweather situation, really, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's disappointing, but I still want to see it.
I guess the difference with Pacquiao and Mayweather was that they were both still right at the top of the division, whereas Fury's not the number one guy anymore. You can't even argue he's the number one guy anymore. AJ's definitely not even. AJ might not even be top 5 anymore. So I guess it's like Yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. It's probably more akin to Khan against Brooke than any other
Agreed.
fight
Yeah.
that's happened.
Yep.
And again, like, it's such a frustrating thing because of the nature of these domestic rivalries. These guys now know they can push it right till the end, and they can just use that as like an afterthought fight almost. They'll get well paid, and it doesn't limit their career opportunities. So it's really frustrating because you want to see them when they're at their best. At the same time, I do agree with you. I think it's still a fight worth seeing, and it's a fun fight. But it's not like, realistically, in terms of what that fight is. This might sound a bit mad, but it's probably a co-main event now. If you put actually any stock into belts and achievement, that would be a really fun, exciting co-main. If you just took the profiles away, like it should be but it is a main event, of course. And I still want to see it. I still want to see it because why not? What would be the point in not doing it? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, mate. Anything else you want to chat about before I bounce?
Man, I'm good for now. I appreciate you having me on, and maybe
good
I'll
stuff, bro.
pop in another time.
Give your channel a proper plug before you go. What is it? What can people expect from it?
Sweet. My channel's Big Boys Boxing. Used to be Kiwi Box years ago, but it's changed. I cover pretty much heavyweights only, but I do a few videos of the bigger weight divisions here and there. And if anybody's interested, click on one of my videos. There's a Discord link in the description of every video. You can come and join the server, and we do a lot of stuff over there as well.
Hell yeah, bro. Sounds great. All right, man. Thanks for your time.
Right, man. Take it easy.
Catch you later, dude. Bye. All right, everyone. I'm not going to stick around too much longer because it is 8 a.m. here and I have work to do today. But maybe we'll do one more. If anybody else wants to jump on, we can do one more caller. It's a guy called Henry on Discord if you want to add me. I will, I'll give you a ring. But I think this has been a really good stream, actually. And this is something we should probably start doing more because it's nice. It's really nice talking to the fans, people in the comments, and actually putting a voice to the name. I think that this can be a format moving forward for sure. It's nice for me as well. I don't get to talk to people about boxing that much. And it's nice to do it here on the channel so that everybody can listen and interact. So yeah, if anybody else wants to jump on, it's a guy called Henry on Discord. I'll give it a couple of minutes and see if anybody else wants to. If not, I will get off. But yeah, guys, ask any more questions you have in the chat now. We can actually take this outside of boxing if you want for the last little bit. So if anyone has any questions in general, hit me up with them. We can do a fun little finish to the stream and see what people are thinking. What people want to know. Yeah, if you could bang a like as well on the stream, people, that'd be great. But yeah, it's a bit late in the UK now. It's just after 11, isn't it? So we're getting on. I'm just going to as I say, I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody else wants to jump on. All right, David's still in. David, who is one of my best members. Thoughts on your club's business in the transfer under Delap is a good signing. Mate, Chelsea's transfer business is doing my head in. Man, it's so depressing. The whole Petrovic, Maignan, Sanchez situation with the keepers. I won't talk too much Chelsea because I don't think people here want to hear about that. But I'm absolutely furious with it. I think Delap's a good signing, but I'm becoming increasingly worried and frustrated that the club is just buying investment players and isn't buying to strengthen the team as the priority. So yeah. Mark Hatch says, AJ got bashed up by Hellenius. Fury's jab is way better. Yeah, Fury's got a great jab. You might well be right. You might well be right, my friend. JM, what fight are you attending next? I have no plans to attend any fights. If Inoue Nakatani happened in Japan, because I'm in Australia, I'd be very tempted to try and go. If I could try and get some kind of media accreditation or something, that would be an amazing experience. So maybe Inoue Nakatani if I'm dreaming. I'll put it out there into the universe and see if any companies want to sponsor me or something to do it. Steven says, if Inoue versus Nakatani happens next, who do you think wins? I've got Inoue right now. I need to think about it some more. But I do think that Nakatani is great, and I don't think it's a case of people trying to hype something up that isn't there. I do think it was a good fight. I just think Inoue's got the extra speed that I think will be the difference to counter in the moments where Nakatani opens up. East Midlands Fight Fan says, what is your opinion on Trump? To be honest with you, I don't really want to make this political. I don't think I'd get on very well with Trump, but equally, is he the best option for America right now? I don't actually know, because what he's doing in certain aspects seems pretty terrible. But the way the world's been going has not been good. So I just think America is too limited with the two-party system, as many countries are. And that's about all I'll say about it, really. I think he's quite funny as well. Like, that's probably why he's in power. David says, your options out on the wings being Gittins or Garnacho are worrying. I mean, we haven't even got them, so we don't have any options. Yeah, bit of a nightmare. Mark Hatch says, Inoue beats Nakatani right now. Nakatani needs to fight more elites. But I do think Nakatani would be the biggest threat to Inoue. Yeah, I agree. Mate, I never know what your name is, but I do recognize you. Henry, who do you think wins, Inoue or Derek? Very good. Very, very good. James says, Trump is the lesser of two evils, even though he has plenty of faults. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. Steven says, does Nakatani's style remind you of anyone? His fluid combos kind of remind me of Marquez, especially his long uppercuts. Yeah. Do you know what? He doesn't... Do you know what? Might be a really rogue shout, but he actually reminded me of George Groves when I was watching him. That really wide stance, the bladed stance, the deep set. He loads his legs a lot is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, I could see George Groves in him, which is a weird comparison, but yeah, I see it. Paul Helsby says, think we'll get Farage next election. I'm not that in touch with what's going on with UK politics at the minute, but from everything I'm hearing, Reform are doing good stuff. And the populist vote is the one that people seem to follow these days. So it could happen, couldn't it? I don't really want that to happen, but it could happen. And I just think everybody's out for power at the end of the day. So the options are bleak, aren't they? They're not the best. Alex Bellotti says, hey, Henry, who's more washed, Anthony Joshua or Derek Chisora? That's actually a really good question. I think that Anthony Joshua, from his prime to now, has deteriorated more than Derek Chisora has, but I would still fancy Anthony Joshua to beat Derek Chisora, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. David says, Nakatani beats Bam in my opinion. I think he'll drop Bam 2-3 times and win by comfortable decision. I rate Bam highly too. Maybe, I don't know. I think Bam's an unbelievable fighter and he's young, he's growing. It depends when the fight happens, but yeah. Oh, you're Mashford. Yeah, for some reason in this, the names appear differently. I know who you are. Who do I have? Usyk or Dubois? I need to do a proper game film analysis of it, but right now, Usyk, but I need to think about it properly. It's easy to say Usyk because he's already beaten him. But the question is, how much has Dubois improved and how much has Usyk slipped? That's what the narrative will be around the fight. How do I think Leeds will do in the Premier League next season? I have no idea. I've not been watching Leeds. One of my mates is a massive Leeds fan, but I haven't been watching them for a long time, so I've got no idea. Josh Byfield says Leeds will likely get relegated. And that's kind of the general point you can make, is that there's a massive gap. But I don't know anything about the manager. I don't know anything about the way they play. Yeah, I don't know. Hitchens or the Australian Emperor? I think Hitchens gets the decision. Yeah, you'd think Hitchens would win that fight, but yeah. We'll see. Paul Helsby says, Bud versus Canelo, who wins? I mean, the more time passes, the more I'm leaning towards Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford is unbelievable. He's never lost, but he's never been anywhere near middleweight either. Having said that, I think his feet are so much better than Canelo's. The question what I really think it comes down to is, does Bud punch hard enough to keep Canelo off him? He definitely won't knock Canelo out. I don't think there's any chance he knocks Canelo out. If he did that, I'd be absolutely shocked. I don't think Canelo's that shot. I think he'll show more ambition with his feet in terms of holding them than Skull did. So Canelo probably will land on him, and can he take that power when he does? You've got to say Canelo's the favorite, but I am leaning more and more towards Bud. I can't make the pick yet. I don't know. Who are your top 5 fighters currently? I feel like number 1 for you is Dave, given your reaction. In terms of support, he's the only fighter I actually support. In terms of who my top 5 fighters are, it's a different question. Who I think the best are, my best fighters right now, or best to watch. I'll say best fighters is basically top 5 pound for pound, isn't it? Usyk, Crawford, Inoue. Who's my number 4 fighter? Usyk, Crawford, Inoue. Oh, that's really hard. I'm trying to think who the other guys are that I would consider being in the mix. Do you know what? I'm not sure who 4 and 5 are. In terms of who I'm excited about, Boots would be in there. And Itauma. I'm excited to see Itauma. So that's definitely not top 5 pound for pound, but I'm excited about those 5. Lambo Gallardo says, does Fabio Wardley make sense for Moses Itauma's next fight? Well, they're both with Ben Davison, so that won't happen. And I don't think it makes sense because I think Wardley is the kind of guy you don't want to put Itauma in there with while he's building, where no matter how good you are, Wardley might land something. So no, I don't think so. Do you know what happened to Harley Ben, Nigel Ben's other son? No, I don't. Not sure, mate. Mashford says, I've been a fan of you for a year. You're doing awesome work. So far, you have come and releasing the best content. I'll stop glazing. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Do appreciate it. Josh says, wouldn't want to see Wardley versus Itauma unless it's for a belt or at least an interim. Yeah, it just won't happen, to be fair. James says, Conor Ben or Harlem Eubank. In a fight, it's actually a decent fight. Probably Conor Ben just because he's a bit more experienced, but I don't think that Harlem Eubank would be out of the question in terms of beating him. In terms of like style, I actually quite like Harlem Eubank's style. It's interesting. Steven says, what chances are you giving Pac versus Barrios? He looked really old in his exhibition. I'm giving him basically no chance. If Pacquiao does it, I'll be absolutely blown away. I will cover the fight. I'm excited to cover the fight in a fucked up way. But I don't want to see him in the ring. Ideally, I'd cancel the fight if I had the control. I think he's got a 10% chance of beating Barrios. It's just that he maybe lands something. But there's no way he should be beating Barrios. Eastman's fight fan, is Paro better than Kambosos? I've not seen loads of Liam Paro. I don't know. I can't answer that. Harley Ben was supposed to fight on Misfits, apparently. Okay, didn't know that. Josh Byford, Bivol, yeah, of course. I should have Bivol in there. Bivol and Beterbiev should probably be 4 and 5, to be fair. Good shout. Josh Byfield says, imagine if Bivol and Usyk were the same weight class, what a fight that would be. Yeah, it'd be ridiculous. But then, could you box the way Bivol does at heavyweight? Probably not. Although Usyk comes very close to that. Mashford says, I think Usyk and Alex Pereira's super fight may happen as well in boxing. Do you know the John Jones and Tom Aspinall situation? If so, what are your thoughts on it? I'm aware of the John Jones-Tom Aspinall situation. I don't really follow MMA, but my understanding is that John Jones has had that belt for ages and hasn't been taking a fight with Tom Aspinall. I mean, you just strip him. It's simple. Especially when you're a one organization like that, but obviously they need the money. So the UFC is running into the same problem that boxing's always had, which is that the names outgrow anything and then they run the sport. But they don't. But he doesn't have any other viable options. So yeah, over time, I think UFC will probably end up very similar to boxing. Potentially. Hannah Doom says, Caballel is potentially top 5 as well. Potentially, but we need to see him in there with some better opponents. Alex Blotti says, are questions going to be asked about the standard of boxing coaching in the UK? Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison for 2 are below average. Well, I think there's some very good coaches in the UK. I think there's a difference between a coach who bloods a fighter, develops their skills from the foundation up, and I'd say, how do I describe it? It's like the difference between a coach and a tactician. I think Ben Davison is someone who can get fighters in shape for fights and helps give them game plans and things like that. But does he actually improve the skills? I don't know. It's up for debate. We need to see someone go all the way through from the beginning to the end to know if that's the case or not. But it's hard for me to comment on boxing coaching in the UK in general because we produce some great fighters. So I'm sure there's lots of good coaches. They might just not be the top guys or the ones that are sort of media top guys. Steven says, if Inoue shows up in Reyes gloves versus Nakatani, it's going to be a big problem. I'm sure he will. I'm sure they both will. David says, the years of Bivol versus Beterbiev not being able to be done cost both fighters of becoming undisputed. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they waited too long for each other. I don't think Beterbiev would have gone to any other weights. I think he just is a light heavyweight. Bivol, maybe super middle as well. But again, Bivol at cruiser would be interesting. See how he gets on. But I don't think at this point you'll see Beterbiev moving. But I'd like to see it. Yeah, I spoke about this earlier, the whole Tom and Jerry comment from Turkey. I don't think you can dictate how fighters fight. You can try to make good matchups, but if someone is a top fighter and they're winning with a more defensive, negative style, then yeah. But ultimately, just don't make fights like Canelo Skull, make more competitive matchups. Skull won the belt against Shishkin. In that fight, he engaged a lot more than he did in the Canelo fight, but in engaging, as I broke down, he was making a lot of mistakes. He would have got knocked out if he'd done the same. We'll call this the final comment. Masham says, I saw a clip the other day. Tyson Fury saying he's happily retired, but I call BS. The AJ fight needs to happen now. He doesn't deserve the Usyk rematch. He's Usyk's son. Yeah, you can't. He doesn't deserve to walk straight back in there. I agree with that. He should do the AJ fight. I agree with that. A couple more comments I'll just get to quickly. Paul says, Jamie Moore has impressed me. Yep, Jamie's a great coach. He gave me some advice recently, which was kind of him. And David says, I think Beterbiev would have gone to cruiserweight if he'd become undisputed earlier. Maybe. That is entirely possible. All right, everyone. Well, look, thank you so much for being with me for this stream. We'll definitely do more of these. I think the call-in element is definitely good. I think it's good to hear from other people, get other people's thoughts and opinions. And it's good fun. So, yeah, we'll do more of these in the future. So, thanks, everyone. Do bang a like on the stream. East Midlands Fight Fan, just before I go, said try and do a live with Teddy Atlas. Mate, firstly, I don't know how I'd get Teddy Atlas. Secondly, would Teddy Atlas want to even do it? And thirdly, he talks like in the most long-winded way ever. I like Teddy Atlas. He's a genius boxing mind, but I need people that get to the point more quickly than him. It's why I never like academics. Academic writing is so exclusive and sort of, pretentious and flowery. I find it very difficult to engage with. So Teddy always paints these really long analogies and it just doesn't agree with my brain. So I would probably struggle with that. But would I like to talk to Teddy Atlas? Of course I would. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you for being with me. We've been live in the fight room and we'll do another one of these soon if you enjoyed it. Take care, guys.